my name's Bill.
And my name's Andy, and welcome to Triumph Tales.
Triumph Tales is for you, for those that are interested in the tech industry in Asia Pacific. We're going to be talking to those early stage tech companies, the challenges they face funding and growing their businesses. We're talking to leaders of large tech companies, and we're talking to those funds that back these guys for growth. If you're interested in pursuing a career in the tech industry, learning skills that can lead you into the tech industry, this is for you, and we hope you join us on this journey.
I'm very happy to have Dave West, President, Cisco Systems APJC, with us today. I've known Dave for over 12 years in his roles in Asia Pacific, and he's been with Cisco for over 24 years. So, Dave, welcome to our podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Particularly at this stage in the quarter. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. So you're just closing the quarter, right?
So anything for you both.
Thank you. So, Dave, we've known each other for a number of years, as have you, Bill, in a Cisco capacity. So can you tell us a little bit about your background, where you're from, and how you ended up in your current role?
Yeah, well, I'm originally from New York, born and raised in the U.S. Graduated, went to military academy, served in the military for a decade, transitioned during that time to technology, and came to Cisco 24 years ago.
24 years.
So I'm 24 years at Cisco, and I've done many roles at Cisco. Started as an SE, became a manager, a technology manager, CTO for a part of our business, a CTO for the Worldwide Partner Organization, and when I came to Asia in Singapore, I was the chief technology officer for this part of the world.
I remember that.
And evenally transitioned into the business
24
side.
years with a company, they must be doing something right to stay with an organization for that amount of time, particularly in the fast-moving tech industry. What is it about Cisco that you really like?
You know, I think the one thing is that Cisco does a really good job of capturing market transitions.
Yeah.
So you're always on your toes. You're always having to learn, keep pace with technology transitions. Cisco's strategy has always been build, buy, or partner, and we've kept that strategy for a long time. And most folks don't know this, but Cisco's 40 years old this year. 30 years quick. In Singapore. So it's been a long journey, and it's been a journey of a lot of transformation, a lot of new markets, a lot of new technology, a lot of new innovation. So that's what's kept me at Cisco for 24 years. Plus, I've had a lot of different jobs. SE, manager, sales, solutions, chief technology work. So just a lot of different things that kept me
Bill,
alive.
we were talking about this prior, and basically you were saying it was quite interesting to see Dave has come from the technology thread into a senior management role.
Yeah, okay. So the traditional paths to the top of tech companies seems to be through sales or through finance. Technology is not always that easy to get to the top, particularly large companies at scale, which Cisco definitely is. What do you put that down to?
Well, I think when you look at some of the hyperscalers today and some of the top leaders in the industry, many of them came from a tech background. They started as engineers and then worked their way up to be CEOs of these major hyperscalers and large companies. I started the exact opposite. I was a liberal arts major. So I literally started not in technology and then moved into technology. And when I look at it in hindsight, best decision ever to start in liberal arts, because it taught me to write, to communicate, to do all those things that sometimes you don't do in engineering. So I developed those skills first before I even moved into engineering and computer science and those areas. So I took a little bit of a different path, but when I look back on it, it was probably the right path for me.
So that actually leads to a question we have sort of top of mind is, obviously there's a real challenge in terms of acquiring talent. Asia, is exactly on point for that. But if you were going to go to college now, study, you said liberal arts, but if you were going to go and study something that's relevant to the IT industry, I guess, traditionally it's been software, and everyone's now saying AI is going to disrupt that, but whatever. What areas or domains is Cisco going to be looking to hire young graduates from?
Particularly in this part of the world.
No, without a doubt. I think there's a talent shortage no matter where you go in the world. When I think about the next wave of talent that's needed, I'm thinking about AI for sure. We talk about prompt engineers, folks that know how to communicate with AI engines. Cybersecurity is absolutely top of mind, and really understanding the nuances of security, not just high level, but really digging in and understanding threats and how to respond. And then observability. Everyone wants insights and visibility, which means you have to be able to understand how to collect data, how to be able to know what to do with the data, and then be able to make decisions on the data. So data science is critically important.
So that's been a major shift. I mean, and you talk about transition. So we grew up in the world where Cisco was very much a hardware company with a bit of software. It's transitioned to software and consumption. Do you want to take us through that journey where how does Cisco or how does the market perceive you right now?
Because it's not done that often. Software is software, hardware's been hardware, but a hardware company that transitions to software, there's not exactly a playbook on it.
Well, I think we're a bit of a hybrid. We're still a hardware company. At our core, we still do a lot of hardware business, but all of that hardware is instantiated through software, through services, through insights, through visibility, through automation. So everything that we do still ties back in a lot of areas to hardware. I mean, even if you think about WebEx and what we do in collaboration, we still make some of the best WebEx devices on the planet.
Yeah.
You know, our video devices are second to none. But it's all powered by the cloud. It's all powered by software, all powered by SaaS services. And so Cisco's making this transition, but we're not doing it as if we're moving away from hardware. We're still making the best quality hardware in the world. I think a lot of folks know us for quality hardware, for router switching, Wi-Fi, no matter what it would be, SP core. But all of that value, all of the differentiation is delivered in many cases through software and overlay capabilities that allow sort of the hardware and the software to move as fast as the business needs to move.
Now, your company's grown up highly acquisitive over the years. You've bought more companies than I can remember. I mean, there's been so many organized, Splunk being the most recent. You also seem to have an incredible track record of retaining talent once you acquire these companies, which seems to be, in my view, the envy of their valley and probably elsewhere in the world. What's the secret?
It's a really good
Easy question, hard to answer.
No,
I'm
I
sure.
love the question, and I get asked it all the time, like, because it's the same for me as well. I've been here for 24 years. I mean, how many technology individuals you know stay in the same place for 24 years? Not many. Either they can't get a job somewhere else, or
I was going to ask, Dave.
or there's something else happening. I think Cisco's culture is unique in the tech industry. I think our culture is about empowerment, allowing people to work the way they need to work. We are a very driven company, but we're a very people-centered company, and we care a lot about people. And we don't just talk it, we walk the talk. And so I think culture, our ability to understand where people are, meet our people where they need us to meet them, and then giving them the flexibility to be the best that they can be at their job separates us from probably every tech company out there.
So on that culture point, I remember a few years ago, John Chambers basically said that when he was looking to acquire a company, the make or break was cultural fit. And that was, they could have had the best people, the best technology, but if the cultures clashed, that was
Still the same. And again, our culture, even before John Morgridge, right? I mean, that's where our frugality came into play. Yeah. So for those that remember John, and John's still on the foundation today, I think 90 years old.
Wow.
Still on the foundation. And then John built on that, and then Chuck built on what John started. But it really is, culture just makes a huge difference in what retains, I think, the talent that we have. And most folks that leave Cisco want to come back. Now, the ones that don't, usually, it's personal ego, but everybody says, even when they leave Cisco, go work for a competitor, they're still part of the Cisco family. And it's one of those places that they'll remember for the rest of their lives and enjoy probably the most.
So we had quite a lot of history, both of us, with Cisco. I can't remember, back in the 80s, the company I was with at the time that's now known as Orange was selecting their router manufacturer back then, and they picked Cisco. I think this was back in 1991, something like that. Yep. And I proudly went to every partner summit, I think, other than once when we were down in San Diego and I got a phone call. My wife had a medical problem. I had to fly back. And that was the night before the partner summit. But during that journey was because we used to run one of the your larger partners here in Asia Pacific. And I know the relationship sometimes, like any relationship, we had our bumps in the road and things, but overall it was an amazing experience. You enabled our business to be incredibly successful. And I don't think we ever considered moving from Cisco to anybody else. And again, it was that we know the people, we build the relationship. So it wasn't just company to company, it was individuals. And I've unfortunately shown my age here. I've known numerous presidents of Cisco Asia Pacific, and they've all remained as good friends. So it's quite something.
So that talks to channels. I mean, Cisco is very channel-centric. We talked to Bill, you talked to a number of startups, and their number one issue is, I need more revenue. And the question is, are you going to go direct or channel? What are the pros and cons, or maybe more the pros? I mean, Cisco is very channel-centric and nothing's changed. So can you just talk to how important that is for any startup versus mature company?
Well, I think it's a decision a company needs to make. I know for us, 95% of my business here flows through the channel. My partners are everything. They help me scale.
But you guys made that decision very early on, didn't you?
Well, we have not changed that decision.
You never had any other model,
This
right?
this has been at the core of Cisco. I think it's probably our greatest competitive differentiation as a company is the channel, the ecosystem that we have. And it's not that we wake up trying to, drive everything through the channel and not reward them. It's, channel profitability and our partner profitability is incredibly important. But for many companies, that's a decision they have to make depending on where they are. Sometimes when you're in early stage, it's much easier to get the work done, especially when you're trying to build, a beachhead of customers that you can reference and drive forward. If you have to work through the partner, it takes some time. You've got to develop the partner. You've got to ensure they have preference for you over somebody else. A lot of times, SaaS companies and early stage startups will just go it alone. They've got to drive their value. They've got to put their engineers in front of the customer. They've got to build referenceability and capabilities. But then I think there's a point in time, and even for the large ones today, where they say, well, we can't do this alone.
Yep.
And, oh, by the way, if you do it alone, a lot of the partners that are in the market will compete against you. They will position others against you. And their relationship sometimes with the customer is just as good as yours is.
Oh, absolutely. And I think this is why you guys, in hindsight, were so wise, so smart, whatever you want to call it, in starting with the channel program. And with early stage companies that we work with now, it's always the recommendation. If you're going to go to market, go through channels. But I remember some of your competitors and many major vendors used to beat a path to our door saying, tell us how Cisco does it. Why are they so successful at channels? And we'd always say, ask Cisco, don't ask us, But it does seem that you're still the benchmark for channel models, not just in Asia Pacific, but anywhere.
I mean, I hope so, and I think we are. Again, just because we really do value our partnership in the ecosystem. We don't just talk it, we value it, and I do think it's our greatest differentiation.
Does that work differently in this part of the world compared to, say, North America, Europe?
I think what may be different is, like I said, I mean, you go to a place like Japan, our partners are incredibly influential over our customers. I mean, you go and you meet with some of our largest partners there. They've been working with those customers
decades,
for
right?
50 years, right? So,
and that's the Japanese way, loyalty.
Exactly. And so it's so very important to recognize that. And then in some places of the world, you may not need that, right? You don't have that longevity of relationship with the partner piece quite like you would have with us. Here, I think the partner piece is absolutely essential for success. It's essential for my success.
Yeah. So, Dave, you're known for you're always wanting to grow people and develop people and coach people. I mean, people talk about Asia. There is no one Asia. So, given Asia compared to a Western environment, I mean, how have you had to flex yourselves? You spent some time in Japan, probably, which is the most either left or right in terms of having different cultures. But what have you learned, and how do you apply yourself to operating in those different environments?
the difference between here and, let's just say, you go to the UK and the European bloc or the US, cultures, they're different, but they're very similar in terms of just demeanor and the way people operate. Here, it's different. I mean, you go to India, there's one culture. You go to Australia, different.
Oh, yeah.
You here in Singapore, go to Japan, Korea, China. There's a lot of differences in culture, and I think the one thing that I've learned being here, and it's what I appreciate most about being in Asia, it really makes you think. It really makes you listen. Because if you can't understand what somebody is saying, and I've been in a lot of meetings where I don't understand.
Yeah, you and me both.
Because I can't speak their language. But body language,
Yep.
Their demeanor, facial expressions. So it really taught me to be a much better listener, to step back and listen before I speak, understand people's demeanor, and even for my own employees too. Because even though they may speak English, it may not be, fantastic, and then they may not be able to digest everything that's being said. But body language tells you a lot. And if you really listen, even if you don't speak the language,
You pick up.
you can pick up a lot, and you learn a lot. And I just think that's the beauty of this area of the world and working in Asia. Plus, people are marvelous here. They're really good humans, and I think it's unique here than anywhere else in the world.
It's good to hear.
They want good things to happen. They're very focused on their communities. They want to make sure that anything that they do or any investment they make doesn't just make a difference for their companies or themselves individually, but it's for everyone else around them.
Very much so, particularly in Japan, right? That's a huge focus.
It just like you go to Thailand, it's the same.
Yep.
And so I sort of treasured that. It's just super important to who I am, and it's what keeps me in Asia.
So I was at your partner kickoff in Miami a few months ago, and everybody turned up in their national whatever. So, I mean, it was tribal. It was unbelievable, right? Well, I mean, what an evening. I won't tell you how you dressed up. Was it King Neptune?
I think it was, but it's great, and because it's funny because sometimes people have to sort of put on the costume when they go to work, and they're got to be a superhero every day. But when we do an event like that, when you get to dress up, you can be yourself or you can be somebody else. And love it. And I'm sorry you had to hear me sing and dance.
No, talking of singing, I remember when this guy sang at a partner summit down in San Diego, and I dared him to do it, and he did. He got up on stage at your partner summit and sang "I Did It Huawei."
The famous
CISCO
Frank
partner
Sinatra song.
summit.
Yeah, I got second prize.
It
was a moment.
By the way, I was there.
Oh, you were.
So no worries.
moment.
I got to witness that. But yes, I had to sing Kokomo this year,
Yeah,
if
yes,
you
yes.
remember. Yes, and the Beach Boys can really kind of elevate their tone. I cannot elevate my tone as much as the Beach Boys can.
Sorry, Andy, but you're talking about silence earlier. I lived and worked for a number of years in the computer industry in Saudi Arabia, of all places. And one of the things I learned about negotiation over there was the power of silence, how effectively the Arab nations use silence, and it just so amazingly impactful. And some expression that came out a few days ago was, it takes you 2 years to learn how to speak and 60 years to learn how to shut up. How do you use that tool when you're running a team across Asia Pacific? You said there's a real emphasis on listening. But when do you listen and when do you speak? And when do you use your background of U.S. military trained guy, pound the table and tell them this is the way it's going to be? I mean,
very rarely.
Or don't you?
Very rarely. I think over the years I've just learned to listen first.
Yeah.
And it's almost because when you're in charge of a big team and you're the leader, if you're the first one to speak, then usually everything will sort of move in that direction because people either align to what you're saying,
They'll take your line and they'll follow your
or
thread.
they won't listen or they won't align. And so I've always felt it like I love uncomfortable silence. Like just like you said in Saudi Arabia, that pause, everyone wants to fill the void and speak, but it's really important, I think, to have that uncomfortable pause.
100%.
And wait till the end. Just listen, let everyone have their say, and then make your comments at the end. Because you you harness and you gather everyone's feedback, and then at the end you can sort of tie it all together, agree, disagree, drive consensus, or have the folks go back and do some more work. But if you do that in the beginning, you'll never, ever get everybody's feedback. You'll never get alignment. I've always seen that you miss so much if you're the first one to speak.
Your business in Cisco has pioneered, driven, grown remote communications for one, particularly video and audio. The world changed during COVID. Everybody's working at home. Impacted Singapore very badly, as it did many countries. How has your work and communications style changed post-COVID? Are you still doing an awful lot of work remotely? Are you struggling to get people back to work? Where are you?
I seem to have this hybrid work discussion every day, and it looks like more companies are coming back to the office. All of those things. For us, we didn't miss a beat. In many cases, we make the technology that supports hybrid work today, remote work, allowing security, privacy, connectivity, whatever that may be. I think what changed, though, is our culture adapted a little bit. We became much more empathetic, much more understanding. It was complicated in COVID, and in fact, the only reason why people came back to the office because it was too complicated to work at home. When you're at home in a very small apartment, and remember, this isn't big houses.
Kids remote schooling, both parents working in some cases, all in the same room, right?
For me, it was tough. Like I was in Japan in a small apartment. My desk was right next to the bed. I'd literally roll out of bed, jump on a WebEx call, then stay on the WebEx call for 12 hours, and then roll back. It was like rinse. And because the only reason I'd have to do that is because the kids were in the kitchen because they weren't at school, and Holly my wife had to do homeschool. So, we're seeing a lot of people come back to the office today, which is also interesting because the demands now there's a tremendous amount of demand for return to office, but the offices that people are returning to are not the offices they want to work at. They don't want to work in cubicles, right? Yeah. They want to work in collaborative workspaces, in scrum teams, because they've been doing it for so many years now.
So maybe I can add to that, because I'm working in the space. So I think the observation I've had is that so working with a lot of the real estate companies, the big JLLs and CBREs that manage most of the big office blocks. So everyone's looking to downsize the footprint. They want to go from 100,000 square feet to 30 or 50, but they want to be in central CBD, but they want quality environment. And the office now has to be a magnet. And to your point, like technologies like WebEx, bringing people in, make it easier. So people don't come to go to the office, they come to collaborate. I mean, that's a massive, massive sense I've seen.
I think you said it really well. Is the office a mandate or is it a magnet?
Yeah.
And, you talk about talent, and all of us want the best talent to come to our companies. When you walk into an office as somebody who's being recruited, I don't know about you, but for me, the first thing I do is look at the environment. I assess the environment, I assess the work environment, the people, how people are collaborating, or are they just sitting in their own little spaces? And it's changed. And I think when you start to think about what you expect and what new talent and young talent expects, they want the office space to be a collaborative work area. They want to be able to work from anywhere. If they have to come to the office, fine, but it better be a place where they feel good.
The environment works.
It makes a huge difference for all of them.
Okay. Cisco is investing a lot of AI. We can't have any conversation without using the...
You waited a few minutes.
We did. We held it back. You guys have invested heavily, the last few years in AI and your collab technologies. I mean, we've all seen a lot of changes in technology, and this is going to be the end of humankind. It's going to change and displace jobs. And I would say
emotional in a lot of cases as well, right?
Yeah, it is. Typically, it's made more new jobs than it's replaced others. So things like programming right now, big question mark. Do you need programmers? Given what you know and what you foresee down the track, what do you see as the pros and cons of integrating AI into your technologies, I guess, firstly, and then secondly, using that as a business tool?
I don't know if there's a pro or a con, right? There's a lot of discussion of, is AI going to displace jobs? What does the future workforce look like as we look down the road? And in my mind, I think it's going to happen no matter what we all say and think about it. The question is that it's now moving from predictive. We've done predictive AI for a long time. When there's background noise, cancel the background noise. That's predictive AI. But now it's generative AI. And so, we're being able to ask questions and get answers and interact with artificial intelligence. And I think every piece of software, every piece of hardware, and most of the things that we do in our life will have some combination of generative or predictive AI. And so, there's a lot of discussion right now of what this means for, if you're a frontline worker taking calls, does that mean you could potentially be displaced down the road? And there is always that potential. But I also think there's the potential to up-level skills, to grow and develop, so that AI can start doing some of the mundane work, maybe some of the low-level jobs and functions. But I think as you move up and you've got to really make some tough choices and some hard decisions, like a cyber attack happened, your AI engine picked up everything that's going on. Do you want it to automatically shut off, all of these users, shut off all of these domains, do all of that? Or do you want to be in the loop to help make that decision? Let it make a recommendation to us as humans, and then we'll have to learn how to interact with AI. That's what I see happening down the road.
So large language models have been around for a long time, emerged from neural nets. The world seemed to have transformed once the chat module seemed to be the interface. Is this the end of voice now? Or we see the Googles and your AWS and everybody downgrading the teams or removing team members. Is chat now replacing voice, or is this just happens to be another wave on the ocean?
I just think it's another wave on the ocean. I just think everything is just going to evolve. We're using our voice right now. And our voice comes from our own perspectives, our own histories, our own understandings, our own learnings, all of those things. Is there a day when we'll be replaced by AI to have a discussion like this? I don't know. The question is, where's that balance between what we bring as humans and what machines bring to discussion? Will AI know maybe of our experiences? Sure, they'll know about it historically and maybe understand it, but emotionally it'll be tough.
Yeah, and is it an internet moment with this time last year when this broke surface with ChatGPT? Is it an internet moment, or is it just another tool in the toolbox? I think that's something we're all trying to figure out.
It's a
hindsight will be able to
It's
answer.
a really good question, but everything tells me this is an internet moment. This is a major inflection point, and we'll look back on this moment as sort of a tipping point to the next evolution of what and how we use technology. This is my belief. I think that countries, companies will look at where they are in AI, and we will determine their economic standing, their standing on the world stage, and their viability moving forward based on the things that they have accomplished with capabilities like AI.
So governance, I mean, certainly tools like ChatGPT is getting a lot of question marks. I would imagine for companies like yourself, you're having to look at what tools you use and the governance, and all sorts of risks pop out. You guys having to look at that very carefully?
Sure. And we have to make sure that it's done ethically and responsibly. Because you think about it, I mean, there's a lot of information that can be passed through AI. But you don't want your own personal information, privacy information, company information, or business data shared with others. So you really have to think smart about the ethics and being responsible when you use AI. So we're thinking about it every day, and we've just We just launched AI Assistant for WebEx as an example. And it's great because you can walk away from the meeting and it can tell you everything you missed. It can turn on and off the camera based off of you being there and not. Do it in like 150 languages. It's like,
It's amazing.
it's pretty,
it's cool.
pretty sophisticated, but also for security too. AI. So there's AI assistants now for almost everything that we do.
So if an AI version of Dave isn't going to be in front of all your teams and clients and things in Asia Pac, that means that you still got to climb on airplanes and travel and so on.
I do.
How do you manage that? Because the last year I did hundreds of nights in hotels and airplanes. And one of the main reasons that I decided not to work full time anymore. But from your point of view, how do you manage it and how do you balance it with home life, family, good husband, good father? It's tough.
Poorly. I try my best, right? First of all, I have a great support structure at home, and I think that's the most important thing. But when you're doing jobs like ours, there is a lot of time on airplanes and a lot of time away from home. And if you don't have sort of the support structure at home, it makes it almost impossible. And you have to make trade-offs at that point. And so I've always, I used to many years ago talk about balance in my life, and I just fail because I can never find the right balance. So now it's much more about integration. How do I integrate work with life? Because they all coexist. It's not like I can turn off work because I have my mobile device. It's things are always going on. I'm always chatting with somebody, and so it's more about how I integrate it and make sure that I give time for myself because I have to take care of myself. I have to exercise. I have to make sure that
You're looking fit, I must say.
I find the time to center myself, and then I've got to make sure that I find the time to be a good partner, a good father, all of those things. And so just constantly reminding myself that that's what I need to do. And trust me, if I'm not doing a good job of it, my partner at home will make sure I know about it.
I say that. That's good. So talking of leadership styles, in terms of, to your point, the day-to-day work, we're always poured into the important or the urgent versus the important. I mean, just talking to important, in your work day, week, month, what do you think? I mean, running, whether it's a startup company or a big company, what are the key things you've got to keep your eye on? And do you have like a percentage? It's got to be 30% here or 50% there. What are the things, the scanners that you have to keep front and center for you?
I think we've all been through the courses. We know, 60 to 70% of your time needs to be focused on strategic, 30%. I think the biggest thing that I tell people is know where your North Star is. Where are you going? And always stay focused on where you're going so that, how far into the details you get into, the issues or the topics that you need to address and all of that, as long as you're focused on the North Star and getting to the end state that you see is the path to success for your organization, that's where I focus my time and attention. So really I know where I need to be. If we're transitioning from hardware to software and services, recurring revenue, I'm looking at that North Star of what that transition looks like and making sure that every decision that flows from there gets me closer to where that end state. So it's staying very focused on the North Star. Where I see large companies, small companies, startups going through, trying to raise money, they got a lot of North Stars.
Too many.
Too many North Stars. And the problem is they're trying to find something that sticks. And when you do that, it defocuses you from really where you need to be going. And so I think focus is incredibly important as a leader, and knowing where the North Star is and then orienting everybody towards the North Star. And like everything else, push away the noise, right? People used to say to me all the time is, don't sweat the small stuff, but everything is small stuff. So it's, it really has you thinking about how do you make sure that you push everything away that's noise. And as long as you stay very focused on where you want to go, commit yourself to where you want to go, and don't, you're going to upset people. You're not going to make everyone happy in that journey, but you'll get to the journey.
There's a term I've used for years, which is I may be wrong, but we're not confused. We're going over here, and if you don't like it, off you go.
That's it.
But with early stage companies, as you highlighted, sometimes it's strategy of the week. We found something new, and a very important part of strategy that I've believed in for years. A lot of it is what we're not going to do. Never mind what we're going to do. And for the early stage guys, they've got to filter out a lot of that noise and just be true to their purpose and understanding what that purpose is. And part of what we do nowadays is to help these guys get their narrative straight, for one, get it aligned internally, get it aligned with their clients, get it aligned with their investors, so that they are actually on one mission. And being consistent about the way they stick to that mission, rather than just drifting off and pivoting constantly,
It's
and
hard.
burning cash in the process.
It's hard because, they've got a few investors, and they've got to report back to the investors, and I get it's hard. And I just like you, I spend a lot of time with them, coaching, mentoring, advising. My recommendation is they're gonna, when you're in the early stage startup time, you've got to find the right place to start. Sometimes you've got to bounce in a couple of different areas to see what works. Like, today was manufacturing, but tomorrow it's going to be retail. And oh, by the way, I'm not sure, financial services may be the right place. I think you've got to really know what your value and differentiation is.
I agree.
What you're going to deliver to the customer that's going to separate you from the pack. You should also know whether your tech or solution is top-notch, best of breed, or marginal. And if it's marginal, okay. And then what's going to differentiate you? Is it going to be services, your go-to-market, industry knowledge, all of that? And so I go through that same process with many of them as well, Bill.
So I've got a question for both of you. Bill's been working in the VC world for a couple of years now, right? I mean, working with Wavemaker.
3 years.
And I think, Bill, a comment you made to me, and I'm interested in your observation, is we've come through the corporate world where we look at the product, we look at the differentiation, we look at the management team, we look at the financials, and go tick, 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 and it gets a big tick. Bill, you've sat through multiple presentations from startup, and it goes tick, 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 tick. And then some of the investors just within minutes just go.
Yeah, and this is the bit that gets me is you can see 2 pitch decks, 2 organizations, 2 great leadership teams, great ideas, very clear what problem they're trying to solve, and 2 slides in, one fund is just shutting down the conversation soon enough, and then the other one they look at and they're talking about writing checks on slide 3. What have you seen that I didn't see? And it's that experience that I'm intrigued as to understanding. Now, back to you guys, you acquire a lot of companies. You have an acquisition machine, some would say. Is that just as active in this part of the world as it is in North America?
That's a really good question. It's active, but we haven't found as many in this part of the world. We find a few in Australia. We'll find a few in India, but it's not as active as it is, let's just say, in the U.S. or in Israel, Portugal, other places.
Is that the lack of looking or the lack of finding?
It's in many cases, what we find is you go to a place in North Asia or in other locations in this region of the world. There's a lot of great technology, but it's very focused on a given market or a given segment in the market, which makes it very difficult to have global applicability. And for us, we're not buying a solution for
A local
a
market.
Japan
Yeah,
or an Australia
Yep.
or a Thailand or an India. We're buying solutions or acquiring solutions and partnering for the world.
That's a message to you startups.
And so you have to think about, maybe you're going to start in a given market, let's just say the Japan market. But if you want to go global, you need a strategy to go global. And it can't all be just Japanese or just address Japanese specific things. It needs to address global challenges and global opportunities. And so that's one of the reasons why I think we don't see as many early stage startup or even mature startups that get acquired from this part of the world.
What do you see? I mean, Singapore, is investing a lot of time, a lot of effort in terms of trying to get more startup. What do you see? What do you see working in Singapore, and what should people take from Singapore Inc. here? Because there's a lot of money, a lot of time being spent.
I think you said it. The government is promoting it. There's money to support it. There's individuals like yourself that advise, coach, incubate, and help accelerate. And I would say this is a very good place. My experience has shown this is a very good place. As long as you can find, like you said, you've got the right solutions, the right technology, the right innovation, with the right culture.
Yeah, and the right team.
And the right team. Seriously, the right culture and the right team, because you said in the beginning, sometimes it's not about the tech or the engineers, it's about the culture and the team that makes us most excited about the folks that we acquire. It's the same here as well, but you've got this very stable foundation in Singapore, which I think makes it an incredible place.
In the news this week, I don't remember which channel it was on, it was talking about the huge number of vacancies in the cybersecurity space. You've got a background in cybersecurity amongst many other technologies that you've covered. What should universities be doing to produce ways of closing those gaps? Is it particular skill sets that you're looking for? I mean, what do you wish would happen in the industry to produce more cybersecurity experts?
I wish we would promote STEM even earlier.
Really? Not liberal arts.
Not liberal arts. But everyone needs to be able to communicate, to be able to write. We need to do it much earlier, Bill. I think the difficulty is that once you get into university, you've sort of been formed a little bit. You know your personality. You have an idea of what you want to be. And if you're not like in the mindset of an engineer at that point in your life, it's tough to sort of champion through cyber. But if you start really early, you make engineering and science and technology and mathematics cool, for primary school, and as you're growing up, all that, get people really excited. It's not just for geeks.
Yeah.
Right. So that's why we don't see enough women in technology. Right. The perception is that this is very geeky. Right. It's very cool, and it's a great place to be in terms of job, profession, growth, understanding. If you're inquisitive, I mean, the beautiful thing about being in the technology space is you either learn something new every day or you die in the space.
100% agree.
You've been a champion
I've
of it forever, right?
I've been 40 years in this industry, and it was always, be a student of the industry, learn all the time, and I think I probably got that phrase from Cisco originally, but it was always try to study, try to always keep on top of it, because if you don't like the industry, just wait a minute, know. But trying to attract that talent in, I have 3 boys, and I'm trying to encourage all of them to try and look at cybersecurity as a potential career. I remember when I was at university looking at options, and it was one of my friend's dads who said, no, you got to get into the IT space. And it was, what? Why would I want to do that? The same thing, right? It's nerdy, it's white coats, glasses, clipboards. Not at all. The last 40 years has been an absolute roller coaster, and I've loved it.
There's a beautiful line that was coined a few years ago that basically said that every company today is a technology company that focuses on logistics, or selling a phone,
Retail,
or making cakes, or retail.
Medical.
And that's
But
just
they're a tech company first, right?
Everything we do is tech, and
it doesn't matter. I mean, you've got to be, digital savvy, and no matter what business you go into, I think, to compete in tomorrow's business climate. And so, I don't think it's geeky. I don't think it's nerdy. I think it's really interesting. It forces you to learn. It forces you to adapt, and it's cool. And so I think that's the message I would send. We need more cybersecurity professionals. We need more prompt engineers for AI.
Yeah.
We need more data scientists. We need more folks that know how to parse data and give us insights and visibility. There's millions of jobs that are needed today that need to be filled. We just got to show the students of, that will be coming up through university that like, this is a field you want to be in.
So outside of the technical skills, what are the softer skills that you think, what does Cisco look for when it's, I know it's a very broad question because you hire at multiple levels, vertically and horizontally, but what are the key attributes, I guess, the EQ factors that you look for in, when and if someone wanted to come and apply for a job for you, what is it you're looking for outside of their technical experience and knowledge?
I want them to be authentic, transparent. I want to know who they really are. Because when it gets really tough, I'll figure out who they really are. They need to be able to communicate. I want to see that they're passionate about things they work on. I need to see that they're inquisitive. We look at ourselves as a learning organization, which means be comfortable being uncomfortable every day, because you'll never be able to keep pace unless you're challenging yourself to constantly learn. And so, this comes back to my liberal arts undergraduate background, always being inquisitive, always communicating, having to stand up in front of individuals and tell a story that resonates with somebody, being able to write effectively. I think
still writing.
Writing is the lost art.
No kidding.
People just, when you don't take the time to learn how to write, it's not like when you become an adult, you're going to automatically become very good at it. And so, these are the things I look at. And then, people have told me you can look at things differently, but I've always believed that past performance is the greatest indicator of future success. If you were successful in school, successful in sport, you may not have been the top of your class, but you were driven and you're hardworking. I think you can be incredibly successful. I love people that come in that are hardworking, passionate, committed, willing to learn. I'll take those maybe over the number one in the class any day of the week.
The other thing I look at is a skill, and this is one I'm trying to work with my kids all the time, is read more. And one of the things I did very early on in my career was go on a speed reading course, which at the time I wasn't so sure about, but it transformed my ability to read and absorb stuff so that before meetings, prepping for things, you could cover more ground than most people. And I found that's a lost art. I've got one of my boys that's a voracious reader, and two of them that will read because they have to,
Push them on that. I would say I think reading is incredibly important.
Because that helps your writing, of course, right?
I was never a big gamer. I'm still not a big gamer, even though my children try to coerce me into gaming.
As do mine, yes.
So they can win.
One in particular.
But, and maybe there's a lot to be learned through gaming, in terms of your aptitude to be able to respond and direct things very, very quickly. But I don't think there's any substitute for reading. And so I think those that are voracious readers, and I think when you look at many of the top CEOs in the world today, they're all voracious readers. They not voracious movie watchers. Voracious. They read ferociously.
So is it reading or listening? The whole world now is podcasts, and I know you listen to, and I listen to a lot. But can you get enough from a podcast that you could get more of from reading a book? Views?
I think podcasts are important, right? I learn a lot from podcasts. Every time I go and I have to take a trip or I go on a plane, I listen to a podcast. I talk to my son who drives to work every day. He listens to a podcast every morning. It's a new podcast every morning. I think you'll learn something from podcasts. I think when it comes to vocabulary and truly understanding sort of the written word, I don't think there's any substitute for reading. And so, because it'll force you to investigate. If you don't understand what's going on, or maybe your vocabulary, it's extended, it's gone beyond your vocabulary levels, it'll force you to go back and look, and you'll open up a dictionary. And, I don't know if anybody hasn't done that in a while, because words are automatically.
It's all instant.
It's automatically instant.
I use it all the time.
But you go back and look at a thesaurus and look at a dictionary. I just think those are really important things.
Cool. Well, Dave, I know it's end of quarter for you. I'm absolutely delighted that you're able to come and see us, particularly at such a critical time in the quarter. So I hope it's another great success for you and for Cisco, and certainly in Asia Pacific. Look forward to getting you back again at some point to tell us
Thank you
more
so
great
much.
things that you and Cisco are up to.
Yeah.
So
Likewise, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for
all the
having
very
me.
best.
Really appreciate
Thank you
it.
very
Thank
much.
you.